With dynamic athleticism and abundant charisma, Alexander Godunov made his mark as one of the leading male dancers of the 1970s and early 1980s. His variations were a whirlwind of powerful turns and leaps in showpiece variations such as Don Quixote and Le Corsaire. Added to his persona was his status as a Soviet defector, joining Rudolf Nureyev and Mikhail Baryshnikov. To many of Godunov's fans, his dancing was unrivaled. Godunov had one characteristic the others did not. Very tall for a dancer at 6'4" with long blonde shoulder-length hair, he looked like a rock star. Looking at photos of Godunov in the 1980s, he is indistinguishable from charismatic frontmen of significant rock and roll bands. Appearances in major movies with A-list Hollywood elites in the 1980s, Celebrity Girlfriend, and hordes of paparazzi solidified his rock star status. Unfortunately, he shared another characteristic with many music megastars: substance abuse and addiction. He ultimately succumbed to this temptation at only 45 years of age. Godunov's powerful dancing lives on through numerous videos. This video focuses on Godunov's stellar dancing, illustrating his unique combination of athletic prowess and refined technique. A brief bio before a deeper look into his dancing. Alexander Godunov was born in 1949 on Sakhalin Island in the Russian Far East. His mother put him in ballet classes at age 9 to prevent him from becoming a hooligan. He trained at the Riga State Ballet School, where he was in the same class as Mikhail Baryshnikov, and the two became good friends. Their paths would cross decades later. At age 17, he joined Igor Moiseyev's Young Ballet. 3 years later, in 1971, he joined the Bolshoi Ballet by appealing to director Yuri Grigorovich and soon danced Prince Siegfried in Swan Lake, earning rave reviews. Leading roles quickly followed. He capped off his young career by winning the gold medal at the prestigious Moscow International Ballet Competition in 1973. By the late 1970s, Godunov was one of the most prominent male dancers in the Bolshoi Ballet, with global acclaim. Godunov never accepted Soviet authority, putting him at odds with his handlers. He was an outspoken admirer of American culture and flouted Soviet authority in his appearance and beliefs. In August 1979, the 30-year-old Godunov defected to the U.S. while the Bolshoi Ballet was on tour, performing at New York's Lincoln Center. He said he wanted to work with choreographers in the U.S., broadening his experience in new areas of dance. Godunov's wife, Lyudmila Vlasova, was also on tour. She did not ask for asylum and returned to the Soviet Union after her plane was on the runway for 3 days. This incident almost started an international crisis until President Jimmy Carter and Soviet head Leonid Brezhnev intervened. The two dancers would never see one another again and divorced in 1982. Years later, Lyudmila said that the Soviets were brutal to him. He was always an independent and proud person with his beautiful long hair, she said. They wanted him to cut it. That's why he didn't like bureaucrats. 8 years later, he became a naturalized U.S. citizen, celebrating his new citizenship by eating a hamburger stuffed with caviar. Months after his August 1979 defection, Godunov joined American Ballet Theater and his classmate Baryshnikov, who was slated to become its artistic director. Godunov was a prominent company member until his abrupt firing in June of 1982. Godunov said that ABT never told him why they fired him. "The company threw me away like a potato peel," he said. ABT's explanation in the press was that the company was doing fewer classics to accent other works. Godunov said he was hurt by Baryshnikov, his childhood friend, who did not personally inform him of the firing. Following his firing, he traveled with his own troupe and danced as a guest artist globally with several companies. He starred in his own PBS TV show, Godunov, The World to Dance in 1983. Godunov then turned his attention to American films after some acting experience in Soviet movies. His early American acting career thrived, landing significant roles in major movies alongside Hollywood A-listers. His first role was as an Amish farmer in the 1985 drama Witness with Harrison Ford.
Good luck.
Your hole is better now.
His second role was in the 1986 comedy The Money Pit with 30-year-old Tom Hanks and Shelley Long. Godunov played a narcissistic, self-absorbed conductor.
Walter!
Well, this is an unexpected revulsion. Are you hot? Can I take your life?
You realize what you've done. You've taken a woman who loves you, one of the great women on the face of this earth, and thrown her away. I've lost her too, but I'll get over it because I am shallow and self-centered.
In the 1988 Die Hard with Bruce Willis, he played the evil killer Carl.
We're both professionals. This is personal.
Well, I enjoyed and I had fun, and it's interesting. My ballet background helped me to run up and down.
After Die Hard, his movies were less successful. He was choosy about his roles, rejecting typecast villains and Russian ballet dancer roles. After friends had not heard from him for several days, Godunov was found dead in his apartment in May 1995. The cause of death was complications from chronic alcoholism. Godunov had been a heavy drinker since he was a teenager. At 6 foot 4 inches tall, with long blonde hair, Godunov had a commanding stage presence. Notable were his dazzling leaps and turns done in an all-out, sometimes almost out-of-control manner. His great athleticism and flamboyant persona made him one of the leading dancers of the era. He shared an aura and mystique with Soviet defectors Baryshnikov and Rudolf Nureyev, who had worldwide fame that surpassed Godunov. However, Godunov had one characteristic that others did not. He was ballet's rock star. With long, flowing blonde hair and abundant charisma, he looked like a frontman for a rock and roll band. He was a favorite of paparattzi photographers, as he had a high-profile relationship with actress Jacqueline Bisset, leading to coverage in the popular culture press with other actors and pop musicians. With his movie appearances, he made his mark outside of the ballet world into popular culture. Let's take a look at Godunov in Don Quixote in 1976, in his prime at age 27, with Nina Timofeyeva. Godunov's Don Quixote variation has a standard structure, with interesting innovations that play to his strengths. He does these steps multiple times. Note the reckless, all-out abandon approach that he was known for. Take a look at his 1-minute variation, and I will be back with commentary. He starts with a funky step, a jeté entrelacé with an extra turn. A jeté entrelacé is a standard step in which the dancer takes off from one foot, switches legs with a half turn, landing on the other foot. Godunov does the basic step, but adds an additional full turn. He takes off on his right foot with more power than in a regular step. Rather than coming down on his left foot, he uses the energy to do an additional turn in the air. As we will see, he does the step again in the coda. This was also a favorite step for Baryshnikov, who employed it often. Godunov does an additional turn, adding flair at the end, then to a piqué attitude. Next is a double rond de jambe en l'air. A rond de jambe is a circular movement of the leg, which he does as a leap, or en l'air. He repeats the segment, similar to his first, with great energy and power. He has great flow as the steps are seamlessly connected. Next are his turn sections. As a big man, he was a proficient turner. In his first turn sequence, he powers through 7 turns, with his working foot moving down from retiré as his turns progress. Note his fairly tight arm carriage, close to his body. Other dancers have a much wider arm carriage that narrow as the turns progress. Note that he starts with a very wide preparation, a closed second or an open fourth position. This was common in Russian-trained male dancers. Baryshnikov and Vladimir Vasilyev also presented a wide fourth preparation on stage. Of course, it is impossible to miss Godunov's flopping hair during his turns, done with animalistic intensity. Godunov then powers through 4 pirouettes, ending in a stylized pose. He finishes his variation with an extremely difficult variant, a double tour in retiré to a double pirouette in arabesque with a bent leg, with arm positions and upper body influenced by flamenco bullfighter poses. A double tour pirouette sequence for the close of the variation is extremely difficult given the amount of energy expended in the first part of the solo. I don't have data, but it seems like Russian dancers favor this variant. Other dancers choose a simpler diagonal pass consisting of double tours to turns or to an arabesque, as Godunov favored later in his career. He finishes with a stylized pose into a quick pirouette preparation from second position. Taking off from second serves him well as it allows for a quick transition as he pops into retiré position. Then a double tour to the knee with a dramatic finish. Next is the coda. Take a look and I will be back with commentary. Godunov starts the coda with a step we've seen before, a rond de jambe en l'air. However, unlike his variation, he adds an extra circle, doing triples, something I have never seen before. Note how much ground he covers in an aggressive all-out diagonal. His next sequence is a manège, leaps in a circle. He does a standard coupé jeté, but with the same jeté entrelacé step with an additional turn that he did in his variation. This is a manège variant that I have not seen before, showing substantial originality. He finishes up with chaîné turns. On his turns à la seconde, turns in second position segment of the coda, he does a whirlwind 3 turns in second, followed by a double turn in arabesque with both legs bent. We saw his turns in arabesque at the end of his variation with arms by his side. This is an extremely difficult turn series at the end of a tiring pas de deux, with little margin for error. In videos in front of live audiences, he sticks to single turns throughout. He finishes up with multiple turns with a turned-in knee, a common variant in the more informal Don Quixote. Alexander Godunov was one of the great dancers of his generation. He was one of a trio of Soviet defectors with Nureyev and Baryshnikov that broke out of the ballet world into popular culture with substantial name recognition, even among non-ballet fans. Comparisons among the three are inevitable, particularly with his classmate Baryshnikov. Direct comparisons with Baryshnikov are difficult given the substantially different body types. At 6'4", Godunov was 10 inches taller than Baryshnikov. While I give the edge to Baryshnikov in the technical and athletic categories, Godunov ranks as one of the all-time male ballet greats. For Godunov, with fame and distinction came tragedy in the form of his much too early death at the age of 45 due to chronic alcoholism, depriving his fans of what might have been in his prolific artistic career in dance and the movies. What are your thoughts on Alexander Godunov? How do you think he ranks among other star dancers in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s? Would love to hear your thoughts and experiences watching him. Drop a comment in the comment section. Thanks for tuning in.